Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back again with another episode of the award-winning Hill Country Podcast. Today, we're going to take things in an almost topical manner as we have Richard McAlister from the American Red Cross, who's going to talk to us not only about the American Red Cross, but its response to the Hurricane Beryl that hit Houston yesterday as we are recording this on Tuesday, July 9th. And he's a meteorologist as well. So we're going to talk about some weather anomalies that he may have seen. So, Richard, with that, first of all, with that incredibly long-winded introduction, welcome. And thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for the opportunity to come and tell the Red Cross story and talk about all of the people that have been impacted by Hurricane Beryl down in the Texas Gulf Coast, Louisiana, and all the way up through the mid-Mississippi Valley.
Can I maybe start with something that seemed to surprise a lot of people about Beryl, which was essentially 3 days ago, it was aiming for northern Mexico, southern Texas, and then it swung north, and then it swung north, and then it swung north. I guess what surprises me is it surprised anybody that could happen. And it reinforced to me the need to be ever vigilant along the entire Texas Gulf Coast.
You know, the American Red Cross started preparing for Hurricane Beryl while it was still well out in the Atlantic Basin, before it even crossed over the Windward Islands. We were looking at the forecast models, multiple forecast models, even before it crossed over the Yucatan Peninsula. And we had a very strong confidence that it was going to make landfall somewhere along the Texas coast, perhaps between Brownsville and all the way up to the Galveston area. And as we were watching those models develop, we saw that, the Earth's natural effect, the Coriolis effect, started turning that storm as it weakened coming off the Yucatan Peninsula. And that's when we really ramped up our preparations and started shifting our focus to the central and north central Texas coast. But we had a lot of warning with the storm. The storm was out there in the Atlantic Basin for 2 weeks before it ever made landfall. It gave people the opportunity to prepare. But one of the things about preparation is, if you do it in advance, then you don't have to worry about it when hurricane season comes along. So what the Red Cross encourages people to do is to use the free preparedness products that we have on our website and go ahead and think about hurricane prepping your home, your family, and your community when hurricane season starts, and not wait until the storm is in the Gulf of Mexico or bearing down upon your city. And we have so much free information and material and training on how to prepare your home, your family, and your community for a hurricane, as well as fires, earthquakes, all types of hazards. And it's available for free.
Can I maybe step back and ask, what's the role of the American Red Cross in a natural disaster such as Beryl?
The American Red Cross, we're now in our 162nd year of providing disaster relief. Most people are familiar with us from events like Hurricane Beryl, but the majority of what we do is on the local level. 80% of the calls the Red Cross receives for help are for local home fires. So we get a call from somebody in the United States about every 8 minutes, and usually it's because their home has burned down in a house fire. Regardless of whether your house blows away in a hurricane or burns up in a local fire, the mission of the Red Cross is to provide humanitarian service to the people that have been affected by that disaster, to make sure they have a safe place to stay, to make sure that they have food to eat, to help them begin that long road to recovery with some financial assistance, with counseling, with planners that will stay with them through the journey and really help them re-enter into a normal life balance. And we have 3 individuals here from Kerrville that have deployed over to the Texas Gulf Coast to be a part of that very large team that's responding to Hurricane Beryl. But the other story is that we have 18 volunteers that remain here in the Kerrville area to help people that lose their homes to fire. So we haven't just all taken off for the coast. We're here, we're doing the mission of the Red Cross just to ease human suffering wherever possible. And we do that with our donors and with our volunteers. 90% of the Red Cross workforce are volunteers. So when you see those Red Cross vests out there, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that that is someone giving their time to help someone else. Many of the people that have deployed are doing this with their annual vacation. They may only get 2 weeks of vacation a year from their job, and they've made a decision to say, going and helping people is more important than whatever annual vacation I was taking. The other thing, of course, is we could not do this without the generous support of our donors. The American Red Cross is not a government agency. We are a 501c3 charitable organization. We don't get any tax money. All of the money that's going to Hurricane Beryl was given by generous donors across the nation so that we could go and help people in their time of need.
How do you liaise with, well, let me step back. I assume you liaise with government officials, county, state, local officials, but you also, I would assume, liaise with private industry or private businesses. And I'm going to think of HEB, maybe delivering foodstuffs into Houston now. Could you talk about the role of American Red Cross within that broader framework?
HEB is a wonderful partner. We have many wonderful partners out there that work with us in the disaster relief operations. And we don't wait until disasters happen before we get together and sit down across the table from one another and find out what the capabilities are. So we start planning every single hurricane season all the way back around Christmas time. We have an annual meeting with the National Hurricane Center down in Miami. We find out what they're expecting as far as the upcoming hurricane season. Then we come back to our local states and regions, and we sit down with those other partners and review what the responsibilities are, what can they bring to the table, what are we obligated to bring to them, but always with the idea of focusing on the person who has lost their home to a natural disaster.
The reason I started off this podcast by saying it's very topical is the Beryl event is not over, and we're now moving into a different phase, and there may be high heat and a heat emergency in Houston. So I was wondering if you could say a few words. One, as a meteorologist, what is that weather condition? But two, what is the role of the Red Cross on the ground now as we move into this new phase?
Well, Hurricane Beryl destroyed much of the electrical infrastructure around Galveston. Last time I checked, there were about 2.3 million people without power. And let's face it, it's summertime in South Texas. It is really hot and humid out there right now. And if you are trying to get through this post-hurricane environment without electricity, you're going to be at risk of heat-related illness. And so what the Red Cross does is the Red Cross opens shelters. And we have 10 shelters open right now. We have a capacity at present of 2,140 bed spaces. And those aren't being fully utilized at this point. So if you are listening to this from the Texas Gulf Coast and your house was blown away by the hurricane, or even if you just don't have electricity and it's starting to get hot in your house, that's a great reason to come on into the nearest Red Cross shelter. You can find that on redcross.org or contact the Texas Gulf Coast region of the American Red Cross, and they will point you to a shelter. And that will be a climate-controlled environment. You can come in. We can give you a safe place to sleep. We'll feed you. We have make sure that you stay hydrated. We have physicians and nurses that are operating in those shelters. And it's just a great way to make sure that we are looking after the people that are at risk of heat-related illness. And really, the fatality rate from heat-related illness could easily exceed the fatality rate of the hurricane itself. So we're going to be there. We're going to be there for the long haul, helping these people. We're going to be there as long as the need exists. We still have people that are responding to the Maui fire from last year. That's still an open operation. We still have 2 people deployed in New Mexico from here in South Central Texas, helping out with those devastating fires last month in New Mexico. We even have 1 individual who's still up in Sanger, Texas, helping with that very destructive tornado that impacted that town. So when we go for the long term, and we're there to help those people for as long as the need exists. And if you can't come to the shelter, then we will come to you. We're also dispatching 28 of our emergency response vehicles to the area, and they'll be headed out on mobile feeding routes throughout the impacted area, taking hundreds and then thousands of meals to people in need that want to stay in their home. They don't want to come to a shelter, but we will be delivering that food and the bottled water. And those people that are out there, the Red Cross volunteers that are delivering that food, they're doing more than just delivering food. They're looking at the people that come up to the emergency response vehicle to make sure that they look like they are healthy and that they're coping well with the stress of the hurricane, as well as just the very difficult conditions that come after the hurricane. So they're assessing them, and they can put those individuals in touch with a Red Cross medical professional if the need presents itself.
Are there, on a going forward basis, will the Red Cross be ready literally for the next one and the next one and the next one?
Yes. Going into this season, the National Hurricane Center told us that this was going to be the most active hurricane season in their forecast history. We also talked with the forecasters up at Colorado State University. They told us that their forecast for this year was the most aggressive in Colorado State University history. And just today, they released their update, and they've raised the number of storms that they are expecting this hurricane season. So you take the most aggressive forecast season in hurricane history, and then just start adding on to it in terms of the number of hurricanes, the frequency of hurricanes, and the intensity of hurricanes. We're just on the B storm right now, and we've got the majority of the hurricane season ahead of us. But the answer to your question is, yes, we're ready. We've got the volunteers and the resources in place. But here's an opportunity for people to become involved. We need volunteers. It's going to be a long hurricane season. Some of these people that have dispatched to Beryl are probably going to dispatch to 2 or 3 additional storms during the upcoming season. So if you would like to become a Red Cross volunteer, we would like for you to become a Red Cross volunteer. And the way to do that is to visit redcross.org, redcross.org. And you'll find a form that you can fill out online and submit. And someone from the local Red Cross chapter will contact you in about 1 to 3 days, and we can begin the process of training you for disaster response. And maybe you don't want to go to the Texas Gulf Coast or to New Mexico or someplace like that, but we need people just to be ready in the community, because the majority of our response actions take place here in the community.
I'm going to ask you for a donation site, and I know you've given the website a couple of times, but specifically for those who may want to make a donation at this time of need.
If you would like to help the Red Cross in any capacity, there are 3 things that we are always looking for. There are volunteers, 90% of the Red Cross responders are volunteers. Donations, or to donate blood. The portal, the entry to all three of those is redcross.org, redcross.org. And if you are away from your PC right now and you want to make a donation real quick, you can pick up your cell phone and text the word Red Cross to 90999 and make a financial donation of $10. So that's the quickest way to make a donation is text Red Cross to 90999 or visit redcross.org to donate your time, to donate your talent, to donate your treasure, and to donate blood, because those things are really going to be needed in the days ahead, not only on the Texas Gulf Coast, but throughout the United States. Most people don't know that the American Red Cross manages 40% of the nation's blood supply on a daily basis. So it's not just disaster blood services. If you're going in for routine care of a chronic disease like cancer and you receive a blood transfusion as part of that treatment, there's a 40% chance that that blood was collected by or transported by a Red Cross volunteer.
Richard, as we move towards the end of this podcast, I wanted to ask, is there anything you wanted or needed to talk about that we weren't able to get to yet?
Tom, I think that we've hit upon all the key issues. Donations to redcross.org, volunteering your time at redcross.org, donating blood at redcross.org. The thing I would leave you with is now is the time to get trained. We have so many good-hearted people that show up immediately after a disaster and they want to help, and we love that, and we do put them to work. But it's so much better when we can get people to come into the Red Cross and take advantage of the training before the disaster occurs. That way, when we need to utilize them to help people, they're already trained, skilled, and experienced, and they can make a greater impact for their community. So come into the local Red Cross office or visit redcross.org, and let's get you started. If nothing else, it will make you better prepared to take care of your home and your family yourself.
Richard, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to visit with us. I want to thank you for representing the Red Cross in our community and thank the Red Cross for the work it's done. So a big heartfelt thank you.
Thank you.